Shalom, family. Shalom. I'm back to talk a little bit more about what we've been talking about, the 2020 Jubilee. And we had talked about summer and winter in both of the previous last videos. We didn't expound upon it. We just mentioned it throughout reading some of those scriptures. And I did mention that I would find the scripture and we would talk more about it. So that's what we're going to talk more about today. Again, we've been talking about the Great Conjunction in 2020 of December, which I believe is the war in heaven. Jupiter and Saturn collide. I believe this is the war in heaven. And the dragon is cast down. Okay, the dragon is cast down. Let's just see if we can get that in the scripture really quick. Okay. And there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels, and prevailed not, neither was their place found any more in heaven. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. And I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, Now is come salvation and strength and the kingdom of our God and the power of his Christ. For the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our God day and night. And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony, and they loved not their lives unto death. Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. And woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath a short time. And when the dragon saw that he was cast into the earth, he persecuted the woman which brought forth the man-child. And to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, into her place where she is nourished for a times and half a time from the face of the serpent. And the serpent would cast out of his mouth water as a flood after the woman, that he might cause her to be carried away of the flood. And the earth helped the woman. And the earth opened her mouth and swallowed up the flood which the dragon cast out of his mouth. And the dragon was wroth with the woman, and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. So one thing I wanted to point out about the video yesterday, and I meant to point it out in the video, but we had so many distractions. I think my husband had called and I forgot to say it. When we were reading about the feast, and we said not to eat, you're not supposed to eat blood, okay? And I said it's better probably just not to eat meat, because the Messiah told us, eat of my flesh, drink of my blood. Here we see here we see that it say that we overcome by the blood of the Lamb, okay? And it goes on to talk about, and by the word of their testimony, okay? Now we read yesterday in Jubilees about the blood, and we talked about the eating of the blood, okay? And we talked about that it said that it was a testimony, okay, to keep the feast days holy, etc., and not eat blood on those days. So it was a testimony. So I do believe that these people will come to the truth and will be keeping the true feast days. The next video I'm going to do today is going to be about the first day of Hanukkah, which I believe is tomorrow, December the 5th. And we're going to get into some scriptures on that. That is the dedication of, it's when you dedicate the temple to God, okay? You cleanse the temple. And I was on my YouTube today, and Sister Paula Wakefulness Theology YouTube, she posted a short video where she was talking about, she was fasting, and, basically talking about being pure for December 5th, basically the 6th. And she said she didn't know why she was being led to that, but she was just sharing it. And I explained to her that I believe that it was because it was the first day of Hanukkah. So I don't want to get sidetracked. I'm actually going to do another video about that later on today. We talked about that. It said that it was a testimony. And let's see, I think I still have Jubilees pulled up from yesterday, so I don't know if I do or not. I do. And it say, and we were left, I and you, my sons, and everything that entered with us into the ark. And behold, I see your works before me, that you do not walk in righteousness, for in the path of destruction you have begun to walk, and ye are parting one from another, and are envious one of another. And so it cometh that you are not in harmony, my sons, each with his brother. For I see and behold, the demons have begun their seduction against you and against your children. And now I fear on your behalf that after my death ye will shed the blood of men upon the earth, and that ye too will be destroyed from the face of the earth. For whosoever sheddeth man's blood, and whosoever eateth the blood of any flesh, will all be destroyed from the earth. And there will not be left any man that eateth blood, or that sheddeth the blood of man on the earth, nor will there be left to him any seed or descendants living under heaven. For into the Sheol will they go, and into the place of condemnation will they descend, and into the darkness of the deep will they all be removed by a violent death. So we talked about this yesterday, and it says, there shall be no blood seen upon you. Of all the blood there shall be all the days in which ye have killed any beast or cattle or whatever flieth upon the earth. And work ye a good work to your souls by covering that which have been shed on the face of the earth. And ye shall not be like him who eateth with blood, but guard yourself that none may eat blood before you. Cover the blood. For thus have I been commanded to testify to you and to your children together with all flesh, and suffer not the soul to be eaten with the flesh, and your blood, which is your life, may not be required at the hand of any flesh that sheddeth it on earth. For the earth will not be cleansed from blood which have been shed upon it. For only through the blood of him that shed it will the earth be purified through all its generations. So we talked about eating of, the Messiah said, eat of my flesh and drink of my blood. But I wanted to point out that it was saying that it was a testimony. I believe that was probably in the previous chapter. It says, and the Lord smelt the goodly savor, and he made a covenant with him that there should not be any more flood to destroy the earth, that all the days of the earth, seed time and harvest, should never cease. Cold and heat, and summer and winter, and day and night should not change their order nor cease forever. So that's what we're going to be talking about today, summer and winter. But I did want to point out that it was calling it a testimony. Okay, here we go. It say, any blood that was in any flesh, and he made a covenant before the Lord God forever throughout all the generations of the earth in this month. On this account he spake to thee, that thou shouldest make a covenant with the children of Israel in this month upon the mountain with an oath, and thou shouldest sprinkle blood upon them because of all the words of the covenant which the Lord made with them forever. And this testimony is written concerning you, that you should observe it continually, so that you should not eat any day any blood of beast or birds or cattle during all the days of the earth. So he was talking about this testimony that they had of not eating blood, and also of the keeping of the days, the feast days and the Sabbaths. Okay, so we talked about this yesterday, so I don't want to go over that again because we've already wasted time talking about that. I want to get into what the video today is about, which is the summer and the winter, which ties in more to what we've already been saying about December 2020. Okay. So, let's go ahead and into Zechariah 14. Zechariah 14 say, Behold, the day of the Lord cometh, and thy spoil shall be divided in the midst of thee. For I will gather all nations against Jerusalem to battle, and the city shall be taken. Okay, we also talked about being taken yesterday at the end of that video. And the house rifled, and the woman ravished, and half of the city shall go forth into captivity, and the residue of the people shall not be cut off from the city. And then shall the Lord go forth and fight against those nations as when he fought in the day of the battle. And his feet shall stand in that day upon the Mount of Olives, okay, Daniel 12. And Michael shall stand, okay, which is before Jerusalem on the east, and the Mount of Olives shall cleave in the midst thereof toward the east and toward the west, and there shall be a very great valley, and half of the mountain shall remove toward the north, and half of it toward the south. And ye shall flee to the valley of the mountains. We talked about fleeing to the mountains yesterday. For the valley of the mountains shall reach into Azel. Ye shall flee like as ye fled from before the earthquake in the days of Uzziah king of Judah. And the Lord my God shall come, and all the saints with thee. And it shall come to pass in that day that the light shall not be clear nor dark, but it shall be one day which shall be known to the Lord, not day nor night. But it shall come to pass that at evening time it shall be light, and it shall be in that and it shall be in that day the living waters shall go out of Jerusalem, half of them toward the former sea, and half of them toward the hinder sea. And summer and in winter shall it be. So I want to point out in this 9:11 that he says it'll be at evening time it shall be light, in summer and in winter shall it be. Okay, and it says, And the Lord shall be king over all the earth. In that day shall there be one Lord, and his name one. And the land shall be turned as a plain from Geba to Rimmon, south of Jerusalem. And it shall be lifted up and inhabited in her place from Benjamin's gate unto the place of the first gate unto the corner gate, and from the tower of Hananel unto the king's wine presses. And men shall dwell in it, and there shall be no more utter destruction, but Jerusalem shall be safely inhabited. So we talked about yesterday that some people, I believe, after this coming Jubilee will be protected. They'll be safe, hidden, and then others will not be. They'll be taken, and, we talked about that. So, And man shall dwell in it, and there shall be no more utter destruction, but Jerusalem shall be safely inhabited. And this shall be the plague wherewith the Lord will smite all the people that have fought against Jerusalem. Their flesh shall consume away while they stand upon their feet, and their eyes shall consume away in their holes, and their tongue shall consume away in their mouth. And it shall come to pass in that day that a great torment from the Lord shall be among them, and they shall lay hold every one on the hand of his neighbor, and his hand shall rise up against the hand of his neighbor. And Judah also shall fight at Jerusalem. So everybody's hand shall raise up against the hand of his neighbor. We talked about this, and we talked about that this is actually going to be going on with the two witnesses as well. And Judah shall fight at Jerusalem, and the wealth of all the heathen round about shall be gathered together, gold and silver and apparel in great abundance. And so shall be the plague of the horse, of the mule, of the camel, and of the ass, and of all the beasts that shall be in these tents as this plague. And it shall come to pass that every one that is left of all the nations which came against Jerusalem shall even go up from year to year to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, and to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. And it shall be that whosoever will not come up of all the families of the earth unto Jerusalem to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, even upon them shall be no rain. Okay, there shall be no rain. And if the family of Egypt go not up and come not, that have no rain, there shall be the plague wherewith the Lord will smite the heathen that come not to keep the feast of tabernacles. This shall be the punishment of Egypt, and the punishment of all nations that come not up to keep the feast of tabernacles. And that day shall there be upon the bells of the horses holiness unto the Lord. And the pots in the Lord's house shall be like the bowls before the altar. Yea, every pot in Jerusalem and in Judah shall be holiness unto the Lord of hosts. And they that sacrifice shall come and take of them and see if therein. And in that day there shall be no more the Canaanite in the house of the Lord of hosts. So some things I want to point out. The summer, winter, the evening and light. And then the fact that he's saying that there will be no rain, because we're going to talk about the latter rain, the former and the latter rain. Also about Egypt and the plagues, he said Egypt and anybody in any of the other nations that come not up to keep the Feast of Tabernacles, okay, there shall be no rain. There shall be the plague, okay. And in one of my previous videos we talked about Revelations 11, but I said I wanted to get more confirmation on it. Hold on, guys. Okay, sorry, family. So we talked about in a previous video, but I said I didn't want to continue further with it until I had more confirmation that it seemed like the two witnesses were given power to that they had the power to bring the plagues upon themselves. Okay, and I said that, but I didn't withdraw it, but I just was kind of like, well, I'll have to do some more research on that. But if we read it, and I said because the reason why I said it is because no rain. Okay, because it say, but the court which is without the temple leave out and measure it not, for it is given unto the Gentiles in the holy city. They shall tread underfoot for 42 months. And I will give power unto my two witnesses, and they shall prophesy 1,160 days, clothed in sackcloth. And we talked about how when you prophesy, that it's actually more so with your actions, how you live your life. So we talked about that in that video. And these are the two olive trees and the two candlesticks standing before the God of the earth. And if any man will hurt them, fire proceedeth out of their mouth and devoureth their enemies. And we talked about your enemies shall be those of your own household. And if any man will hurt them, he must in this manner be killed. These have power to shut heaven that it rain not in the days of their prophecy, and have power over waters to turn them to blood, and to smite the earth with all plagues as often as they will. And when they shall have finished their testimony, the beast that ascendeth out of the bottomless pit shall make war against them, and shall overcome them and kill them. Okay, so it seemed like it had to do with like the plagues. So let's go back to Zechariah. Where were we? Zechariah 14. It says, and it shall come to pass that every one that is left of all the nations which came against Jerusalem shall even go up from year to year to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, and to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. And it shall be that whosoever will not come up of all the families of the earth into Jerusalem to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, even upon them shall be no rain. So maybe it's the two witnesses who's doing this, okay? Shall be no rain. And if the family of Egypt go not up and come not that have no rain, there shall be the plague, wherewith the Lord will smite the heathen that come not up to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. Okay, let's go back to Revelations 11. It say, and if any man will hurt them, fire proceedeth out of their mouth and devoureth them their enemies. And if any man will hurt them, he must in this manner be killed. These have power to shut heaven that it rain not in the days of their prophecy, and have power over waters to turn them to blood, and to smite the earth with all plagues as often as they will. wherewith the Lord will smite the heathen that come not up to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. This shall be the punishment of Egypt and the punishment of all nations that come not up to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. And that day shall there be upon the bells of the horses holiness unto the Lord, and the pots in the Lord's house shall be like the bowls before the altar. Yea, every pot in Jerusalem and Judah shall be holiness unto the Lord of hosts, and they that sacrifice shall come and take of them, and see if therein, and in that day there shall be no more Canaanite in the house of the Lord of hosts. Okay, so I want to talk about that time it shall be, that at evening time it shall be light. Okay, so I was looking into the sun's path, and I started to understand that th- these things are happening at the same time. Summer and winter are happening at the same time. Day and light are happening at the same time in the northern and southern hemisphere. And we're going to talk about it. So it says, I found this, it says, starting right here, the daily path of the sun is steep at the horizon the whole year round, resulting in a twilight of only about 1 hour and 20 minutes in the morning and in the evening. Okay, in the morning and in the evening. So is it possibly saying that twilight and that morning and evening happens at the same time for about 1 hour and 20 minutes? That's what I presume. Okay, so I wanted to talk about the northern and southern hemisphere because our winter is happening when this summer is happening in the southern hemisphere. Okay, or well, yeah, something like, yeah, y'all understand what I'm trying to say. The northern and southern hemisphere is opposite from each other. So when it's winter in the northern, it's summer in the southern. Okay, so that's what I'm saying. Now, what caught my attention about this is because we had already been talking about the summer and winter. Yesterday, I was on YouTube, and I've seen Katy Perry came out with a new video, and I want you guys to go watch this actual video. This song is called "Cozy Little Christmas" by Katy Perry. Now, in the video, I noticed that they were depicting summer and winter. So, and this is a very good picture. So you can see like they're out, like they're on the beach, but in the winter it's like Christmas time. Okay, so they're depicting summer and winter, and you see the snowman has a hat that says ho ho ho. So we're going to actually talk about that. It says ho ho ho. So, yeah, so they're depicting summer and winter at the same time, and this snowman throughout the video has on his hat ho ho ho. So I said, okay, I need to do this video about the summer and winter. Okay, so these are the lyrics to her song. I'm not gonna go over them just for the sake of trying to keep the video short. If you guys want to go watch the video and read the lyrics or listen to the song for yourself, you guys can do that. So, Ho 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 was in the video, and they're depicting summer and winter. Now, I noticed in Jubilee, it said that he was celebrating this feast that we call Hanukkah, the Feast of Dedication. Where's Jubilees? In the third month, It's saying, in the 7th week, in the 1st year thereof, in this Jubilee, Noah planted vines on the mountain on which the ark had rested, named Luber. One of the Ararat mountains, they produced fruit in the 4th year, and he guarded their fruit. So we read this and we talked about this. We talked about this. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to. One moment. Okay, I'm sorry. So, yeah, I was saying, so the point that I was making was I do believe that Noah was in a different hemisphere from us when the flood was taking place, and that's why it keeps referring to summer and winter. Now, when you look up Mount Ararat, it will take you to Armenia, but I've recently come across some information that tells us that the true Israel possibly was in the south of Africa. So I did put Mount Ararat, South Africa, and it did pop up, which if he was in a different hemisphere from us, it would, make it refer to the summer and winter. If he was in Armenia, it's the same hemisphere as us, if y'all understand what I'm saying. So I wanted to point out in her video that it was summer and winter at the same time, as well as it said ho ho ho. Now there's 3 scriptures that say ho ho ho. We're actually going to read those 3 chapters, and then I do want to point you guys to Narnia's video, because she actually did do a video about the 3 ho ho ho's a few months ago, and I remembered that video when I'd seen Katy Perry's video about the ho ho with the ho 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 on there. So let's start with Zechariah 2. So Zechariah 2 say, I lifted up my eyes again and looked, and behold, a man with a measuring line in his hand. Okay. And we can see again that this is the same thing that's going on in Revelations 11. He said to go and measure the temple. Then said I, whither goest thou? And he said unto me, to measure Jerusalem, to see what is the breadth thereof, and what is the length thereof. And behold, the angel that talked with me went forth, and another angel went out to meet him, and said unto him, Run, speak to this young man, saying, Jerusalem shall be inhabited as towns without walls, for the multitude of men and cattle therein. For I, and remember what we talked about in Leviticus 25, places without walls are able to go out free on the Jubilee. For I, saith the Lord, will be unto her a wall of fire round about, and it will be the glory in the midst of her. It says, Ho, ho, come forth and flee from the land of the north, saith the Lord. For I have spread you abroad as the 4 winds of the heaven, saith the Lord. Deliver thyself, O Zion, that dwellest with the daughter of Babylon. For thus saith the Lord of hosts, after the glory he sent me unto the nations which spoiled ye. For he that toucheth you toucheth the apple of his eye. For behold, I will shake my hand upon them, and they shall be a spoil to their servants. And ye shall know that the Lord of hosts hath sent me. Sing and rejoice, O daughter of Zion, for lo, I come, and I will dwell in the midst of thee, saith the Lord. And many nations shall be joined to the Lord in that day, and shall be my people. And I will dwell in the midst of thee, and thou shalt know that the Lord of hosts hath sent me unto thee. And the Lord shall inherit Judah his portion in the Holy Land, and shall choose Jerusalem again. Be silent, O all flesh, before the Lord, for he is raised up out of his holy habitation. Now let's go to Isaiah 55. Isaiah 55 says, Ho, every one that thirsteth, come ye to the waters, and he that hath no money, come ye and buy and eat. Yea, come buy wine and milk without money and without price. So again, we talked about this being the Jubilee. You will be redeemed without money. So wherefore do ye spend money for that which is not bread, and your labor for that which satisfieth not? Hearken diligently unto me, and eat ye that which is good, and let your souls delight of itself in fatness. So what have we been talking about? Eating of his flesh and drinking of his blood. It said, wherefore do ye spend money for that which is not bread? What did he tell us? I am the bread of life, and you labor for that which satisfieth not. Hearken diligently unto me, and eat ye that which is good, and let your souls delight itself in fatness. Incline your ear and come unto me. Hear, and your soul shall live, and I will make an everlasting covenant with you, even the sure mercies of David. Behold, I have given him for a witness to the people, a leader and a commander to the people. Behold, thou shalt call a nation that thou knowest not, and nations that knew not thee shall run unto thee because of the Lord thy God, and for the Holy One of Israel, for he hath glorified thee. Seek ye the Lord while he may be found. Call ye upon him while he is near. Okay. Now, when I was in the hospital, I told you guys on a previous video that when I was laying down and I was in there with my 7-month-old, that he whispered in my ear and it said, look at him. And I understand that meant look to him. Okay. Look to him. And it's 11:44, 1:44. And I when I had closed my eyes and I was going off into my sleep, I remember him sitting on the edge of the chair because I was sitting and sleeping in a chair in the hospital. And when I opened my eyes to see, he wasn't there because I believe I was seeing it with my mind's eye. And when I opened my eyes, it was gone to see with my physical eyes. We don't see with the physical eye. He say, the kingdom cometh not with observation. Okay. Seek ye the Lord while he may be found. Call ye upon him while he is near. Let the wicked forsake his way, and the unrighteous man his thoughts, and let him return unto the Lord, and he will have mercy upon him, and to our God, for he will abundantly pardon. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, saith the Lord. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. For as the rain cometh down, and the snow from heaven, and returneth not thither, but watereth the earth, and maketh it bring forth and bud, that it may give seed to the sower, and bread to the eater. So shall my word be that goeth forth out of my mouth, and it shall not return unto me void, but it shall accomplish that which I please, and it shall prosper in the thing whereto I sent it. So it said that he will pour out his spirit unto us, and I believe that it won't be poured out to some people. They will get no rain. Okay, no rain. So it say, for ye shall go out with joy and be led forth with peace. The mountains and the hills shall break forth before you into singing, and all the trees of the field shall clap their hands. Instead of the thorn shall come up the fir tree, and instead of the briar shall come up the myrtle tree, and it shall be to the Lord for a name, for an everlasting sign that shall not be cut off. So we're talking about still here the redemption, and at the same time a time of trouble for some. A time of trouble. The redemption, and then still a time of trouble. Because he said, for ye shall go out with joy and be led forth with peace. Okay. But soon as they say peace and safety, a sudden destruction cometh upon them. Okay, so the last one that says ho is Ruth chapter 4, I believe. So let's go here. And it says, then went Boaz up to the gate and set him down there. And behold, the kinsman of whom Boaz spake came by unto him, who he said, ho, such a one, turn aside, sit down here. And he turned aside and sat down. And he took 10 men of the elders of the city and said, sit ye down here. And they sat down. And he said unto the kinsman Naomi that is come again out of the country of Moab, selleth a parcel of land which was our brother's Elimelech's. And I thought to advertise these, saying, buy it before the inhabitants and before the elders of my people. If thou wilt redeem it, redeem it. But if thou wilt not redeem it, then tell me that I may know. For there is none to redeem it besides thee, and I am after thee. And he said, I will redeem it. Okay. So we've been talking about the redemption, okay? And like I say, sit down. Turn aside, sit down here. We know that daughter Zion is told, arise, sit down on your throne, okay? Because the Messiah said what? Don't try to sit in a goodly seat. Let's see if we can find it. Like the chief chambers or something, but he said wait until somebody tell you come sit over here or come sit. And Jesus answered and spake unto them again by parables and said, the kingdom of heaven is like unto a certain king which made a marriage for his son. Okay. I don't know if it's in this chapter. Anyway, it's the scripture where he was telling them about not, sitting down in the chief places to let him tell you where to sit. So basically, those who exalt themselves will be debased, and those who are debased will be exalted. Okay, so that's basically what it was saying. But I just wanted to find the scripture. We didn't find it. So let's go back to Ruth. Turn aside and sit down here, and turn aside and he sat down. Okay. And he said, I will redeem it. Then said Boaz, what day thou buyest the field of the hand of Naomi, thou must buy it also of Ruth the Moabitess, the wife of the dead, to raise up the name of the dead upon his inheritance. And the kinsman said, I cannot redeem it for myself, lest I mar my own inheritance. Redeem thou my right to thyself, for I cannot redeem it. Okay, so it said, then said Boaz, what day thou buyest the field of the hand of Naomi, thou must buy it also of Ruth the Moabitess, the wife of the dead, to raise up the name of the dead upon his inheritance. And the kinsman said, I cannot redeem it for myself, lest I mar my own inheritance. Redeem thou my right to thyself, for I cannot redeem it. Now this was the manner in former time in Israel concerning redeeming and concerning changing, for to conform all things. Now say, now this was the manner in former time in Israel concerning redeeming. So it was the Jubilee. And concerning changing, for to confirm all things, a man plucked off his shoe and gave it to his neighbor, and this was a testimony in Israel. Therefore the kinsman said unto Boaz, buy it for thee. So he drew off his shoe, and Boaz said unto the elders and unto all the people, ye are witnesses this day that I have bought all that was Elimelech's, and all that was Shilon's and Mahlon's, and of the land of Naomi. Moreover, Ruth the Moabitess, the wife of Mahlon, have I purchased to be my wife, to raise up the name of the dead upon his inheritance, that the name of the dead be not cut off from among his brethren, and from the gate of his place. Ye are witnesses this day. And all the people that were in the gate and the elders said, we are witnesses. The Lord make the woman that is coming to thine house like Rachel, like Leah, which too did build the house of Israel, and thou worthily in Ephratah, and be famous in Bethlehem. And let thy house be like the house of Pharez, whom Tamar bare unto Judah, of the seed which the Lord shall give thee of this young woman. So Boaz took Ruth, and she was his wife, and he went in unto her, and the Lord gave her conception, and she bare a son. And the woman said unto Naomi, blessed be the Lord, which have not left thee this day without a kinsman, that his name may be famous in Israel. And he shall be unto thee a restorer of thy life, and a nourisher of thine old age. For thy daughter-in-law, which loveth thee, which is better to thee than 7 sons, have borne him. So that's important that Naomi said that my daughter is better than 7 sons, because we are talking about these things are a foreshadow of things to come. So Ruth is the virgin, okay? She's the chosen to give birth. These 144,000 daughters, as I keep telling you, is the Revelations 12 woman that gives birth to the man-child. So this is another foreshadow of things to come. And these 144,000 women are the chosen. Okay, and what did Naomi say? For thy daughter-in-law, which loveth thee, which is better to thee than 7 sons, have borne him. Okay, and what did she say about the man-child? She said, he shall be unto thee a restorer of thy life and a nourisher of thine old age. Okay. So basically, to wrap up some of this video, I believe that everything is still pointing to the Christmas or that season, this winter season of 2020, the year 2020, okay? So we have that Katy Perry video that pointed to the summer and the winter being at the same time, which after I mentioned it twice in the last 2 videos. In the video, they also have ho ho ho, so we read the scriptures dealing with ho ho ho, and we can see it has to do with deliverance, redemption, basically deliverance and redemption, which we've been saying we believe is going to happen next year, 2020. And then after, there will be a time of trouble for those people, like the scripture says, that refuse to come up and worship the King on the mountain. Okay. So yeah, I still believe that everything is pointing to this time. Okay. So that's pretty much all I wanted to bring to you guys today. I will be back later on with a video about Hanukkah being on the 5th. And then we'll also probably do a video tomorrow about Daughter Zion being a rider on the white horse, which is a audible message that I received before I went to the hospital. And I was getting the video ready to be done. And then my son was sick, so we went to the hospital, and I ended up being in there for 5 days. So I never got a chance to make the video, but we'll be doing a video about that. So shalom, family, till we meet again.